A century and a half ago, 400 unfortunate souls were buried alive in a mining collapse 10 miles deep in the earth. Mysterious ancient catacombs surround their subterranean settlement, while bioluminescent fungus creates a ceaseless glow on the bustling city of 2000. Welcome to the rocky beaches of Brightshore.
Piercing headache forces you into consciousness, the lids of your dry eyes peeling back to reveal your friends seated around you in a tight circle. Your limbs bound, your mouth gagged, you take in your surroundings. Waves of purple-tinted water rise over your waist. Clumps of glow-bright fungus clutch to the uppermost edges of the heavily water-stained walls. The sound of a creaking step draws your attention, and you look towards a doorway to see a backlit form as it retreats up a flight of stairs. Their parting words are haunting. It was always only ever going to end like this. Things cut back to 6 months earlier. The scene opens during the 150th Annual Memorial Festival, with the four of you nearing the front of the line of shaft number 15 within the rubble. Shaft 15 was the last tunnel to cave in during the collapse, and as such, is the focus of the town each year. You each clutch a special item, something of relevance that you have found or fashioned over the previous year, and you prepare to add it to what will be the Remembrance Pyre. Kheddeerta. At the front of the line, you step forward.
Just go right in.
Yes, go ahead and describe your character and what you're here to give over. Seat is yours.
Kheddeerta stepped forward. She's a small gnome, youngish looking, with short, wavy off-white hair, light granite skin, and dark violet eyes. She wears a rough-spun tunic of a light, kind of mossy green color, and off-brown, sturdy pants, breeches with lots of pouches and pockets. She's holding a small doll that's been fashioned out of the dried fibers of mushrooms that she approaches to throw into the fire.
You toss the small effigy into the flames. Around you, people murmuring as they watch your gift and remembrance. Smoldering fungus gets burned and fills to ash along with everything else there, as a Bugbear steps forward behind you.
Gornak stands tall, towering, might be a more accurate description of this almost 7-foot frame. He's large, but let's face it, it's mostly fur. Gornak is a bugbear, a naturally lithe creature, despite his size. He has dark, charcoal-colored hair, which allows him to skulk in the shadows, where he spends most of his time. Out of a side pouch, he pulls this simple necklace made from shells that he's collected over the last year during his dives, repairing the ships at the docks, and he places it on the pyre.
It takes a little more time than the fungus effigy did, as the shells begin to scald and burn. Walker steps forward next to you.
A clanking being of gears, metal plates, wooden fibrous muscles steps forward. Machine rather than man, as the Warforged named Walker steps forward with an almost self-portrait style tiny robot that he has constructed over the year from various parts and pieces he has found on his many delves into the ruins. He has constructed it specifically so that it can burn and fall apart, knowing that its purpose was to be put upon this fire. And he steps forward slowly and deliberately, no real haste to his gait. Then he places it there and slowly steps away.
Step beside you, a half-drow slips into space.
Meizaphir walks forward. He's a lean, drow half-elf, a neutral kind of look on his face, long face. Doesn't really emote, give up anything that's going on behind his eyes. He's got viney tattoos up both arms. He wears dingy breastplate that's seen some things. And carries a large pack on his back for storing his expedition loot. And onto the pyre, walks forward, and he puts his mushroom gathering sack and walks away, not giving it a second look.
As your group steps aside and lets the next people come forward, small trinkets, small baubles that people have crafted and found over the last year lay onto the fire. People share their words of remembrance for those who passed and of their hope for the year to come. As you gather aside, Kheddeerta, Meizaphir, notice that someone is looking over at you. Well, looking towards your group. You recognize Matthias Hargrove, the Grand Arborist, a gardener who's responsible for tending to the family trees within Brightshore. A task that's twofold for him. One, to make sure that there are no inappropriate relationships, and another, to remove those from family trees when it becomes necessary. His eyes keep falling to your group, staring perhaps a little too long at the Bugbear in your midst as he leans in to talk to Gnome, the mayor of Brightshore. A few moments pass, and you see Matthias look towards you all and raise a hand, gesturing for you to come join him.
Gornak looks around at the rest of the group, makes eye contact, and shrugs, and starts lumbering over.
Kheddeerta cocks her head to the side a little bit, smiles at the Bugbear encouragingly, and starts forward at a hasty pace.
Meizaphir gives a round, and taking in everything that's going on around behind them, and heads over.
Walker nods and starts moving.
As you step up to Matthias, you see he's wearing the brown robes that mark him as one of the elders of the Gardeners. An old blade hanging from his waist, pre-collapse, long sword made of true steel. His hair is cut short and gray. His eyes and face are aging. He's a human in his mid-60s. He doesn't smile as you approach. He doesn't seem welcoming at all now that you're there with him. But his attention is fully on Gornak. Hello. I hope that the Festival of Remembrance has gone well for all of you today.
Kheddeerta nods.
Have you all been together?
Together in what way?
Apologies, let me rephrase. Have the four of you been together all day?
Meizaphir gets kind of an itchy look on his face, like he's coming up with a alibi.
I mean, most of the day, but not all of it, but mostly yes. Why?
Well, I have some questions for Gornak, correct?
Yes, Gornak. Are we being interrogated?
We're certainly being questioned. Yes.
Question about what?
At what point and purpose?
We'll get there. Where are you currently living at, Gornak?
By the shore of Dockside.
Alright. You've been having any trouble recently? Anyone causing a ruckus for you? Any threats?
I don't think anybody would threaten someone with so little. My only problems are my sheets keep getting wet from all the water coming in.
Do you have any new injuries? Has been any fights recently? No bar fight or anything last night?
You know I keep to myself.
You? At least that's what I've heard. What is it that your people call you?
He kind of snorts and looks away. What
What's the point of all this?
do you want?
Well, before you come with me, we'll go for a quick walk.
What's going on?
I do say I must also ask the same query.
It will all be revealed to you soon. So I can tell Kheddeerta, it's very unlikely that you're somehow wrapped up in any of this business.
Is it just the two of them, or are there any guards or anything around? Are we being corralled?
Yeah, you do a quick look about. There are a couple other gardeners that seem to be paying attention, though they're not approaching at all. Looks like for the most part, as Matthias steps forward to your group, it begins to kind of lead the way southward back towards Old Town. He's either very confident in his own abilities or unconcerned that the four of you are going to do a legger. After all, you are in a place where there's not many places to hide or disappear to.
Plenty of places to hide where they won't ever look.
It's true.
This is kind of going through Gornak's head as he follows trepidatiously. He checks his knife at his belt, but with his other hand he checks his hidden knife kind of in the small of his back.
As he heads back towards Old Town, those gardeners who had been at the edges of the crowd do fall in, though they stay a good 200-300 yards back, slowly making their way in the same direction as the rest of you. As you approach the gates into Old Town, the guards there step aside and let you through. You travel across the small bridge over the river connecting both halves of the town together, and you continue onward towards Dockside. Most people are at the festival in the rubble, and aside from those who are working within the Meridian Palace, or those who had other affairs to take care of, the roads are deserted. step through the southern gates and head into the sloggy mess, the quagmire of the dockside district. As water begins to lap over your ankles, you jump from beam to beam, trying to stay out of the water and the wet, until you approach a home. Standing outside of it, you recognize the house, Gornak, as do you, Meizaphir, your childhood home, your grandfather's home. Matthias stops at the doorway. There, standing just inside, is another gardener wearing gray robes, holding a mace. Gornak, is there anything you'd like to tell me before we go inside here?
I wasn't expecting company. I didn't clean up the place.
Alright. Well then, the guard just inside steps aside. Matthias ducks his head under the beam, and you step into the slowly sinking house. Water begins to rise up past your ankles to your knees. Kheddeerta, you're up past your waist as you walk into this entry hall. Inside the room, there are 3 other gardeners. Looks like they are gathering Gornak's earthly possessions, stacking them on top of a crate and rifling through them.
Meizaphir, you probably haven't been here in years, because this isn't exactly a good place to entertain, but you probably recognize some things that were just trinkets and knickknacks from basically your past life in your parents' home. And you're probably thinking to yourself as you see some of these, like a little whittled horse or whatever, you're like, I thought that washed away, or I thought I lost that. Seems like Gornak has found it and kept it on display. So when you kind of probably look back over at Gornak to see his reaction, he seems like he's seething that these people would break into his what's less than humble, his sunken home where he has nothing, and rifle through whatever small trinkets he has to himself. So he is seething.
Meizaphir definitely gives everything a good once over, so he's definitely going to see those things.
Yeah,
recognize them. Maybe a little bit of a.
It looks like they were being well kept and maintained, like they've been placed prominently in a somewhat of a trophy case. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, probably not a whole case. That's fancy.
Yeah, that's fancy.
but on a shelf.
But on a shelf. That was kept up out of the water,
above water level.
Cherished mementos.
Yes.
Kyle, does it look like they're just rifling through his stuff?
Yeah, it looks like they gathered his belongings on top of a couple crates. Like they're standing in water up to that's like thigh height for them, and they have his things laid out on crates in here, going through it systematically. They're not just like throwing things over their shoulders; they're laying it out and looking through his belongings.
Does this have people trying to look at evidence in a crime scene vibe, or thugs rifling through somebody's belongings to see stuff, combo of both? What's the vibe in the room?
The vibe. So the Gardeners have the authority to investigate crimes. Ever since the food riots 30 years ago, they became the de facto police force. That said, they aren't well trained, right? They're not some regional police force that has had hundreds of years of policies and processes trained into them. These are people within your small town who have the responsibility of tending the gardens and raising your crops and your food, but are also given the authority to carry weapons and help to maintain civil order. They are, from you are skilled in these things and laying out facts and information and drawing conclusions from it. You're looking at them and what they're doing, and they're certainly striving to do that. It looks like their goal is to be conclusive in what they find. But they aren't the best at it, that's for sure.
Gornak's had run-ins with these gardeners before, and he knows that getting too upfront about it is not usually the best course of action. He's good with his words, but right now he knows the wisdom in not speaking. To kind of make enemies of these, they might accidentally, quote unquote, break something as they're looking through it. But you see his fists balled and clenched, and it's taking a lot of himself to not react.
Walker noticing this, what's the dude that led us here? What's his name again?
Matthias Hargrove. The Grand Arborist.
Walker kind of seeing Gornak's reaction and probably knowing what little possessions he has, looks to Matthias and would say, "Now, good Matthias, we have waited long enough for an explanation, and we are here in Gornak's house, and your people are investigating his belongings. I do think that it is time well enough for an explanation as to why we are here and what is going on."
That's fair.
What crimes is he being accused of?
Murder.
What? That's not possible.
Well, it's very possible. Gornak, once we step through that door, you don't have an opportunity to tell me it was an accident, or it was a mistake, or anything else. You want to tell me what happened?
What are you expecting to find in there? Was a trophy taken or something? Don't you think if I was to kill someone, why would I bring anything back? Why me?
Why you is a good question. Alright, this way. He steps into what once was the dining room before the water began to reclaim it. There in the middle of the room, floating, chest head of a bugbear. Its throat appears to have been torn out. Blood pooling around it. The room is otherwise empty. There's a bit of glow-bright fungus, clumps of it that were cultivated by Gornak, here and there in the room. But otherwise, there's a body, clearly deceased, violently slain.
Is there a sign of struggle in this room? And determine whether or not the body was maybe just dumped here, or if it was killed here.
Are you asking Matthias?
No. I'm trying to
ascertain.
Yeah, you can start. You start poking around, looking around the room, kind of scanning it as you're taking in this initial scene. Murder in Brightshore is not something that happens. people go missing. That does happen. People go off on with the tunnel divers or off with the freebooters and might not return. But someone being murdered, that hasn't happened in years. This is the first time that you've seen a body. It's a small town. Accidents do happen. But this is likely the first time that most of you have seen a body like this.
You asked earlier what they called me. I assume you already know.
I do.
They call me Loneborn. I am without family. You think I would do this? You think that somebody would try and come and kill me and I defended myself?
Well, from our preliminary questioning, it seems very possible, Gornak. You say you don't have...
Who is that?
His name is Thudwick. You recognize the name, Gornak. While you have been cast out of your family, and the other bugbears have turned their backs on you, Thudwick was one of your older brother's friends. One of the ones who tormented you when you were a child. And now, here he is. At first, you didn't recognize him. It's a dead body. It's a bugbear. They call the pair floating in purple water with an eerie glow being cast across it. But now that you see the features, you recognize the scars. You see the slightly reddish blonde hues throughout their fur.
Now, if I may, good Gardener, other than the fact that he was found inside the current resident of Gornak here, what other evidence is there to suppose Gornak's involvement in this matter?
It's pretty strong evidence finding a body in a person's home.
Unless you were trying to say, make Gornak responsible for a thing that you did. Not you personally, but the ubiquitous you.
I understand.
I'm just wondering.
How long has he been dead? Maybe Gornak was with us. You don't know that?
Gornak has been with us, like the near entirety of the day.
Yes, Kheddeerta made that clear earlier. Not all of the day, but most of it.
When I say most, I mean like he left in order to use like the restroom, those types of things. He was not gone for any amount of time in which I would assume that a person is capable of such violence.
Did you meet him here this morning, or did he meet you elsewhere?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Did you meet him here, or did he meet you there?
There at the festival?
Yes.
We met at the festival. Not many people come visit me here.
I'm assuming you had all planned to meet at the festival today.
Yes, but that doesn't mean that he did it.
There are better ways to hide a body than to leave it in your living room. If you're accusing me of anything, it should be incompetence. If you think this was me.
Have you thought about killing people before? What you would do with their bodies?
I'm merely thinking of it now. I'm the last one to kill one of my own, forsaken, even though I am.
Meizaphir, during all this, you've been looking around the room. things that stand out to you as you were scanning. I don't think you weren't getting in with your hands. You weren't messing with the body, I'm assuming.
I was looking for blood spatter. Like if this guy's throat was torn out, I would assume there would be more blood than just pooled around the body. I was looking for anything that looks like the room was fought in, things knocked over, stuff like that.
Yeah. There is a broken side table. Perhaps it was pretty small, but the surface of it would have just come out of the edge of the water before it was crushed, it looks like. Don't see any big cocktails of blood on the walls or spatter on the ceiling or anything like that. Nothing that would immediately come to mind with this kind of violent attack. Now, the walls here are water stained and almost always are leaking almost water, like moisture, but that wouldn't hide blood. You know that if this violent attack had occurred in this room, there would likely be blood. And the same thought goes through your mind, Kheddeerta, as you're looking at the body and you're looking around the room. You just don't see it. You don't see the evidence, the blood evidence. And then, Meizaphir, you're looking at the door frame that you stepped just inside of, and you see that there's a clump of fur, of that reddish blonde fur that looks like it was caught on the top of the door jamb.
If there was a fight in here, why isn't stuff knocked over? Why is there no signs of a struggle? Why is everything still looking exactly the way he would have left it?
Gornak,
why is there not
that?
blood on the walls? May I ask, why does it look like he was carried in through the door? Meizaphir points at the clump of fur.
Matthias looks up. It's a good question.
What was he killed with? Ripped apart, you say?
Yeah.
Do I look like the type?
It's hard to tell. The wounds are ragged, but I'm not. This is certainly not my expertise. We had called for Selenin to come down and take a look, but he's occupied. You're all going to attest that you were with Gornak today.
Yes.
Indeed.
Already did. Fear might be just letting the subtlest hint of just irritation and a little bit of disdain with this guy right now. Just got a little bit of...
Just a little bit. Just a little taste of disdain. Yeah, you know Matthias.
He's trying to hide it.
Yeah, you know Matthias. He's more often than not been at your father's home looking for some cousin of yours. And he
certainly more justifiably than this.
Yeah, and he certainly knows you. That's you may have picked up on the fact that when
he's
you
probably
say,
seen this look before then.
Yeah, when you say you were with him, that doesn't seem to carry the same amount of weight as when Kheddeerta says it, or when Walker says it. He's like, yeah, of course you were. Yeah, and you were all studying too, all day.
Just like I wasn't at your house every night.
Right.
Matthias, if you don't mind, may I? And Walker gestures at the body.
If you have Kheddeerta with you, sure.
Yes.
Alright. And so Walker will motion Kheddeerta, I guess, over.
He waits over.
And
Swims.
yeah, like how far in the water is she? Because this is like waist high on me,
it's
right?
getting to where it's about 3 feet deep, probably. Like he's floating on his back. His feet are dragging across the floor. But yeah, it's very deep.
So with Kheddeerta's consent, Walker will pick her up and put her on his shoulder.
You would probably actually start climbing up there herself.
Okay, all right, fair. And then as we walk over,
swim through blood.
yeah, no blood swimming.
No
And
thanks.
as we walk over, Walker will kind of look to Kheddeerta, right, and be like, "Now I may not be the most medically sound individual in our party, but I do have a keen eye when it comes to looking into things. With your help, we may be able to determine the time of death, and hopefully then exonerate our fellow."
Well, I am pretty good at medicine, so yes.
So, what I'll do then is we'll go over there, and if I can, I will aid Kheddeerta or Walker will aid Kheddeerta in examining the body to try to determine time of death, and if possible, cause. Would be my thought. You good with that, Trish?
Yes.
Alright, give me a roll, Kheddeerta.
Medicine check or perception?
Let's do a medicine check.
And I'm aiding you, so I believe you get advantage.
Ooh, you are a professional. Yes, you do have advantage on your roll.
Not that did anything.
Well, you are a medical professional, so there are things that you're able to tell from this body. Primarily, it's dead with that roll. He is, in fact, deceased.
For the audio listeners, that was a 6 and a 9.
Yeah. As you dig with him, his throat is torn out. The cut on it is ragged, which is what Matthias has spoken to. It looks like it's still a great deal of force. Since the bones are actually marked up, like it had been cut through. Some of the clavicle of the bone has been scraped, and then cut through most of the windpipe back to the spine on them. But something that stands out to you as you're there with your experience with herbs and medicinals, you notice that his gums, his gum line is a sickly green color, which you recognize as being caused by glow-bright poisoning. It's a narcotic that you can take that's fashioned from the fungus that lights up all of Brightshore if it is appropriately converted into its materials. You've seen this before, but this is a very advanced case. This person was clearly addicted.
Does it almost look like overdose levels?
Long exposure, it sounds like.
Very long exposure and heavy use.
Probably not refined all the way.
Right.
Lower quality, probably.
This person was very clearly a heavy user of this drug.
In terms of the injury that this dude sustained, does that look like something that Gornak has the capacity to have caused in terms of, like, brute strength?
No.
I got a 10, boys.
With appropriate leverage.
As he said earlier, mostly fur.
Mostly fur.
My strength's even less than yours. I
Matthias
could have picked you up.
picks up a floating splinter from that desk. from that small table that had been crushed. He reaches up with it to pull down the clump of fur that's on the top of the door frame. It's got a bit of meat still stuck to it from where it pulled out at. And he holds it up between Meizaphir and Gornak.
You look like he did a lot of drugs before coming here. Like, for a really, really, really long time.
Look at me. I'm large. The reason I chose this place is because the door frame is high enough where I won't bump my head. I think Meizaphir is right. It was carried here.
I would also like to take a moment to note that the injury that this man sustained would not have been capable of being delivered by Gornak without exceeding amounts of preparation, of which Gornak is not known for.
How dare you?
Apologies, but it's true.
How hefty is that guy looking?
Probably around 300 plus pounds for bugbears.
350 pounds.
I don't think he's
Also
strong
point
enough to
out-
have done these. No offense.
Or to have carried him in here? Sorry, friend.
It's all very compelling.
But hey, this time it worked out in your favor, so that's alright.
Matthias steps through the door back out to where those gardeners are, looking through your things. Alright, gents, wrap it up.
Wrap it up.
Gestures with his head. You see that they were kind of in the middle of going through one of your diving packs. And then they set the bag back down. You begin shuffling out of the room, ripples of water coming from around them before they step out. As they hit the door frame leading outside, you hear them complaining about docksiders and their sinking houses, and how it's going to take days to dry out their boots, and all for a bugbear.
I remember each and every one of their faces.
Yeah.
Or would I?
I started a list of people to murder.
Yeah, exactly. They want to call me a murderer?
I'll show them
I'll
murder.
show them.
You're going to find bodies strapped to the bottom of every boat in this town.
Yeah. Kill all.
Sorry, Gornak, that wasn't very nice of them.
I can't say I'm not used to it.
The front door is pulled closed. Matthias staying inside with all of you. He shuffles back through the water, sloshing back into the room. Well, do you have any thoughts on why somebody would leave a body in your home?
Oh, there's easier ways. I'll admit that.
Is it a matter of convenience?
Doesn't seem like it. Why would they go to some half-sunken home? Seems like I was framed for something.
Who would want to frame you, though? And why?
Perhaps it is less a want of framing and more a framing of convenience. Clearly this person, as you indicated, Kheddeerta, that they were a long-time user of illicit substances, and perhaps that practice caught up to them in an unfavorable manner. Knowing that Gornak here has unsavory relations with his own, they sought an easy out, knowing that you, Matthias, would clearly come to conclusions, which you did. So perhaps it is not of want, but of chance and convenience in order to pawn it off on Gornak.
With this grievous wounds, it seems like there would be quite the trail leading from here. Probably some pools, hopefully on dry land. Why don't you start looking there and get out of my home?
I'll be following up with you.
If you would like help continuing this investigation, I'm more than willing to provide assistance.
Well, I suspect this should take up the majority of all of your time. Right now, as inconvenient as this is for you, Gornak, the simple answer would be there was an accident, someone attacked you within your home, and you had to defend yourself. It was incredibly inconvenient for you. And it would look like there's evidence that points to other things. But it's not going to take long before word spreads that there was a murder in Brightshore. It's not going to take long before requests come in of what action is going to be taken and why it hasn't been taken yet.
Well, it seems like you have a lot on your plate then, and maybe you should get started.
I'll tell you what, I'll get started on my side, and I'll assign a gardener to this as well. His eyes drift over to you, Kheddeerta.
I'll do it.
Good. He lifts up the spike with the splinter of wood with a bit of bugbear flesh on it. I don't know what you found yourself in the middle of, but did your way out.
Sink or swim, huh? That's what you offer me?
I think that's what we offer everyone within Brightshore.
We should just be after the truth. That's not sinking or swimming.
I would agree. Kheddeerta seems to have the heart of it.
That is certainly my preference as well. We're not always given the time for that, though. So take what time you do have as a gift. And good luck. He wades back to the door, opens it. You hear it nudge shut behind him, the heavy weight of the door sealing off the world outside again. Once more, alone, but not quite alone. Inside your home, Gornak. Inside your family's home, Meizaphir. With a body floating in the middle of the dining room.
Do you need to look at this any further? Or can I get rid of it?
We can try looking at it again. I want to try to find out if I can see what caused these kind of wounds.
Also,
Yeah.
other than the front door, is there any other way somebody may have brought this body into this room?
Well, there are other holes, but they're underwater. I doubt anybody would care to look. As Meizaphir said, it seems likely he was carried over another big person's shoulder. I appreciate you offering to clear my name, Kheddeerta. Sorry I'm not more alive here. Under the circumstances.
I don't blame you, and I just want to find out what actually happened, because I think you were free.
Seems that way.
And I don't like that they just jump to conclusions like that without actually looking at other possibilities first.
Well, you can understand the scarcity of the whole situation.
Yeah, but I still don't like it.
I'm with Kheddeerta on that one as well. Do you believe, Kheddeerta, that this was done on purpose, specifically targeting Gornak?
Either targeting or just really shitty coincidence.
Well, as I said, it could be, blood trail leading here. There could be, a gruesome scene elsewhere.
Does seem a good place to start. Also, Meizaphir, have you heard any word from your family about any unsavory situations that occurred during a business transaction?
Not that I'm aware of. I have been trying to spend less time there of late.
That seems wise.
That said, I'm happy to do a little tracking. There should be some sort of trail of evidence.
That may be helpful.
The body bobs slightly. The water ripples.
Can I do some looking around the area, just kind of do like a good, thorough forensicing of the room?
Yeah. So you pick up what Meizaphir did, which is it does not appear that a struggle took place in this room. There's a broken table. There's a dead body. It's been torn asunder. You've taken a close look at it. There was a bit of blood and fur up on the ceiling. But
Try to determine like how the body entered the building.
Yeah, I mean, so it looks like it was carried into this room from
Like
the main, like it came through that main entryway.
through the front door.
No, it doesn't look like it came through the front door.
Okay. Can I do a look around to see if I can figure out maybe where it came from?
You can't, but I'm going to cut to Kheddeerta real quick. Who's with the bobbing body, was looking, inspecting it as the current of water is slowly making it rock.
Before you do the zombie jump scare, I'm going to say that Gornak is not in there to limit her options. And he's going to be putting his things back, sullen. Now, go ahead with the zombie attack.
Meizaphir, are you with Gornak and Walker? Oh, I feel bad. I always this one.
Sorry, what?
Are you with Gornak and Walker in the main room?
Yeah.
Or are you in with the body and Kheddeerta?
Nah, I'd be in the main room.
And Kheddeerta is trying to have a closer look to see if she could do more investigation that she might have missed the first time she did it once over.
Do you, so you kind of you grab a hold of one of his legs and pull him to the water, over to where it's a little more shallow. You start looking him over. Because he's big, he's waterlogged, and his fur is starting to kind of slip here and there off of the flesh underneath, kind of coming off in clumps in your hands.
Ew.
What's your passive perception? It's pretty good, isn't it?
It is 14.
14 is pretty good. You're kind of like probing his stomach, like checking that you're looking him over for other wounds. And as you press down, you feel something press back up at you through his stomach. And then you feel
that's not good.
And then you feel something inside of him squirm and thrash against you.
You guys!
His body suddenly lifts up from behind. It lifts about 3 feet up, and you see from its back spill tentacles, tendrils, like a million jellyfish stingers that suddenly push its form up, elevating it above the water. Let's go ahead and roll initiative.
Gross. That's not normal, though, right?
No. I guess, have we seen it?
No.
Thank you for listening to Brightshore. This and other settings, modules, and maps for various TTRPGs can be found at patreon.com/Dungeon Rogues. Rate, review, like, follow, or subscribe wherever you're listening. We will see you next time on the rocky beaches of Brightshore.